Hey, what's up? It's Wednesday, April 5th. Thanks for tuning in to another week from the podcast that brings you the most honest viewpoints on the week's hottest sports topics. It's Wednesday, April 5th, episode 93. It's a Chasing Points podcast. That's Brandon. I'm pointing. You can't see it. I'm Sam. There's a typo in this wonderful intro that had me laughing.
He's going to try to build a case to prepare himself what is coming next. So just brace yourself. That's it.
What case? When I rewrite the intro again?
Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Brandon.
Don't make it awkward now.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the Chasing Points podcast. However you're listening, thank you so much. Hey, do us a favor. Follow us on Instagram at Chasing Points Podcast. And if you listen to us on iTunes or Apple Podcast or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review and a comment. It goes a long way to helping us out. Brandon, it's Tuesday. A lot of basketball happened. Baseball's in the air. It's got some NFL news, some NBA news. What is up? How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm great. It is 73 degrees as we speak right now here.
Gorgeous.
Currently. So I'm loving the beautiful weather that we now get to endure as the spring is truly upon us. And I'm so glad that the S word is gone. And we only got it really twice this year. Snow, Sam.
Yeah.
You're looking at me so confused. So yeah, I'm happy. There's a lot of good currently right now Premier League is on. I got that tonight. I got the Yankees tonight. I'm already gonna get it out of the way. If you're gonna ask me what I'm looking forward to, that's what I'm looking forward to tonight.
Love it.
How about you?
I love the weather. It's here. Baseball, basketball, great basketball games over the weekend, and a lot of cool action. We can dive into that, but I'm
more to come this week. More to come this week.
Yeah, we're in crunch time in the NBA. Got some new champions in college. I guess we'll just start right there. And I guess we'll start with the men since it just happened here. The University of Connecticut won their 5th national title, beating San Diego State University last night. Again, this is Tuesday when we're recording this, but 76-59, led by Tristan Newton, 19 points, 10 rebounds. Adama Sanagu, 17 points, 10 rebounds. Jordan Hawkins chipped in with 16 points, and Sanagu was named the Final Four's most outstanding player. Averaged in 6 games, 19, almost 20 points per game, 10 boards. Oh yeah, and I didn't even know this. He was observing Ramadan over the last couple weeks, and during from sun up to sundown, you have to fast essentially. That is incredible. I know, we see this during the season of Ramadan, but just that toll that takes on your body, and to compete at the level he did and other athletes do, that's amazing. But at the end, wasn't much of a fight there. UConn, as I mentioned, 5-time national title. Brandon, we both had the Huskies taking it all as of last weekend, and it happened. So what are your thoughts on I guess we'll start with the championship game. We'll work backwards to the Final Four. Thoughts on the weekend?
You want to go back to the Final Four first?
I guess we should probably start there, right?
UConn dominated, and the buzzer beater by San Diego was absolutely San Diego State was absolutely wild. Literally last second shot comes off a little hook curl down on right side of the wing and just knocks it down. So crazy, because I really wanted FAU to play UConn. I felt like it would have. I would have hoped it would have been a better competition, and San Diego State did its thing, which we'll get into in a second. But it's just to see, this is what we are. If this is what we're in for with this transfer portal stuff, I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Seeing these FAU, a team that was not on anybody's radar, had a bunch of transfers doing this. There's a bunch of transfers throughout all of this, making these teams different and better, and giving people opportunities. I'm 100% here for it. So love that. Love that.
Finally, some freedom to kind of maneuver themselves throughout the college landscape here, and these athletes are no longer really like penalized for wanting to change schools and having to sit out or redshirt or do any of that. So yeah, I love it too. I mean, we saw it with when we get to the women's final two. LSU has a lot of new faces there too, and some transfers. And
I mean,
yeah,
Angel Reese, the
yeah.
biggest one. She came from
Yep.
Maryland, and then she went to LSU, and she's
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
team.
So I love it. If these coaches can just like recruit a whole class of high school seniors and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to a bigger opportunity. Like, why can't these athletes position themselves to succeed and get the most out of their collegiate experience? I'm all for that, totally. Huge shot at the end of the San Diego State game. They barely I think that was the only time in the second half that they had they were in the lead,
It was.
which is wild. And just a hell of a shot. I saw the gentleman go down the court, and I'm like, what? Why isn't he calling a timeout? And then he kind of got boxed in a little bit. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't how this game's gonna end. And he just drops this mid-range shot that was just beautiful. It was one of those things where you just knew it was going in as it left his fingertips, and it was a hell of a shot.
Lamont Butler is
Lamont Butler,
a problem, absolute problem. So yeah, that was a phenomenal shot. It just added to the lure of this tournament. It honestly was one of the best tournaments that I've seen in a while, just based off of, as I said last week, I'm not going to call it upset, just based off of real competition and just such tight, close games. Like I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah, the Final Four.
We spoke about it when the seeding came out and heading into the tournament, that it was, I mean, this year was certainly, you had your 1 and your 2 seeds and your dominant programs throughout the season, but it was really tight. And you can make a case that a lot of these teams were mislabeled, misnumbered, if you will, ranked. But in the end, that just the dominance of the Connecticut program over not even the last 6 games, but headed into the Big East tournament, and even before that, just complete domination. They outscored opponents by almost 21 points entering the finals, and as of the Sweet 16, they only trailed for 47 seconds since the Sweet 16. It's wild.
Sam did deep diving. Just to let you guys know, Sam this is what I could imagine Sam is going to be like when the Jets win, but it would be like 10 times, 20 times worse. Sam has dove in on the analytics here, unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I like data, man. As bad as I am at math, I like information data. I'm horrible at math. Pull up those transcripts, baby. No, but that said, hey man, you said we were going to talk about college basketball, and I jumped in. Look at all the stuff for the women I put together.
Like I said, this is the most I've seen analytic wise. You'll get a pass. I feel like when you were doing this, you were like, I gotta do the women's like this, because if I just do UConn like this, Brandon's gonna have some shit to say.
No,
that's it. I'm just, it's just a little gut feeling I'm just going with. That's
so usually what I do is I have a separate sheet where I put all the information I don't want you to see, so it makes me sound smarter. And I do that a lot, but I just put it all on one.
It's a good.
I'm sharing the wealth with you, if you will.
It's a good try. I don't need all the stats because I have a lot in my head already.
Yeah, you're filled with stats. You were really good at math.
I was not really good at math, but I got enough. I know how to count money. That's where it matters.
Hey man, that's count it up, right? That's it. I've seen a lot of questions today, and I know it was even asked last night. I didn't watch a lot of the celebration as I was driving. I was at a buddy's house. No, I watched the whole game. Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch Danny Hurley up at the podium or any of that. But a lot of this, is Connecticut a blue blood school? Just like, can we stop now? Does it matter? 25 years, 5 titles looks pretty good to me. Well,
let's stop fanboying for you for a second, and let's actually talk about the finals game. So what did you think about that? Going into this, you already gave the point differential that UConn's had against the team. How did you feel watching the game? Because to me, it felt like UConn had it as soon as the tip off, and it just relinquished it. Even when San Diego State had its run, I just felt like UConn, as they've been throughout this whole tournament, with Sanago, what's the young man's name? I forgot his name. That's coming back next year. The tall center, the true center.
Swinging, yeah.
Yep. They literally were just too big. They were bigger than everybody. And then you have the guards, wings, as like Hawkins, Tristan Newton, who I knew really nothing about, doing his thing. Jackson Jr. Just had too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought if UConn was, or if San Diego State rather was going to win this game, they'd have to, keep up with UConn and play that more physical style play and kind of keep up with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't, just based on everything I saw or read, I didn't think like them scoring 70 points was going to be, something that would come easy to San Diego State. And I thought if they could keep it close in the first half, but it, they had a chance here, but it kind of just went the way of, I mean, we already led with how long they trailed or didn't trail rather, but in the second half it looked like every other second half. I mean, there was a moment where they were picking up some steam. I think San Diego State was only down by 6. There was a huge layup from Sanago, just like right down the lane there. I think that kind of was a momentum swing back towards UConn, and they never did relinquish the lead once they took it over at the beginning of the first half. But it just it was the blueprint to what the last few games look like keep it close, try not to turn it over. San Diego State couldn't make a shot.
Too much length.
Yeah,
too much length. I mean, San Diego State is essentially, it was rolling through teams too, until they met FAU, and FAU, like you just said, was beat them to the most. But then you ran into a juggernaut that's UConn, and UConn, outside of that little stretch that San Diego State had, they really never had a chance in that game. Nobody really had a chance in them. And going back to statement you made earlier, UConn was definitely not seated properly, period. I know what they were coming in, but they were not seated properly at all. But it's great to see Big East basketball, though.
Man.
That's just a great feeling, because they were in the A10 for a little bit, which was right. It was the A10 American Conference,
Atlantic, whatever it was.
Yeah. Which was absolutely terrible idea. Which also shocked me. I have to be honest. I didn't know that they went back to the Big East. I don't know when that happened, so I'll look that up. But that was very, very heartwarming to see somebody from the Big East back. And then next year they have St. John's that they have to go against with, the little mobster Rick Pitino.
The little mobster.
That's what he just looks like. He looks like a little mobster. And you see him on the sideline, it's just hilarious. But yeah.
I mean, respect to San Diego State, though. I mean, they took down the number 1 overall seed, right? And with the best player probably this season in college basketball in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And they took them down, and it was ups and downs, but they in some one of the biggest shots in probably tournament history too. It was just a really cool moment, and props to them. Certainly, you don't want to be in that position. You think if you get in the finals game, you have a chance there, but certainly something special going on, and just a cool story with Danny Hurley and his certainly everyone knows his brother and his father, and it's just a cool vibe to that he took one home.
Well, let's pretend like everybody doesn't know that his brother is one of the greatest guards in college basketball history, and his father is one of the greatest coaches in high school basketball history, for those that don't know who they are. But continue.
That's it. Yeah. Kudos.
Okay. UConn came back to the Big East in 2020. Probably didn't realize that because, we were in the midst of a pandemic. So that was probably the last thing on my mind at that point in time. So yeah.
I'll give you a pass there, because I didn't know that either.
So you're giving yourself a pass is what you meant. Got it.
Speaking of the Big East, though, UConn went 17-0 against teams outside the Big East. Mm-hmm. That's how you win. That's how you win games, right? But just a cool night. It's cool to, being New Yorkers don't really have college basketball unless you're really into the city, the programs in the city.
So wouldn't that mean that New York
college basketball? What's that?
You said college basketball.
College basketball, yeah. Well, you could
Yeah.
count the Knicks too if you
You
want.
got Syracuse.
Yeah, I know. I know this programs in the area. I'm just saying where we are located
Oh, where we're
in New
located.
York,
Okay. Okay.
there's, as far as big programs to cheer for on a huge stage like this, there, it's outside of Syracuse and Connecticut, there's, we don't get that opportunity a lot, but obviously some great local programs and in the city too. And as you mentioned, the little mobster and St. John's. Hopefully, will make things interesting down there, and Rick Pitino joining that program there too. But yeah, just a cool night. And that said, it was definitely a cool afternoon on Sunday because the women's final was on Sunday afternoon. LSU took down Iowa 102-85. Just I don't ever recall seeing 100-point game like and a margin like this in a women's in a women's game, let alone a final here. So that was cool to see. Jasmine Carson didn't score in any of the prior 3 games, but she came off the bench with 22. Alexis Morris had 21, and LaDazia Williams had 20. But again, the star forward Angel Reese, who will certainly not without controversy, which we'll certainly unpack in a second, put up a double-double with 15 points and 10 boards and just showed just, how special she is and ignited that program. And certainly they have their own, heralded coach, Kim Mulkey, who was with Baylor for a number of years, had a number of championships, and in her second year in Baton Rouge takes home the women's title. So thought, I know you were locked into the women's bracket the whole time, and given everyone their flowers there. Thoughts on the the finals there, and I guess the path that both of these teams took to get there.
Well, shout out to South Carolina. Their 42-game win streak was snapped by Iowa with Caitlin Clark continuing her phenomenal tournament. But they need to get their flowers. They were defending champs, which doesn't mean anything once you get in the tournament, but they have a hell of a team led by Aaliyah Boston, have some phenomenal All-Americans on that squad, and such a phenomenal coach as well. So just want to give them their flowers first, because that was a big loss to see that happen. It was definitely a shocker, as Sam and I both had South Carolina taking it all. I didn't see otherwise. I just looked at Iowa and said, well, they just have Caitlin Clark, and that's why you pay attention to the whole team. It's a team sport, right? So seeing LSU continue to do what they've done, led by Angel Reese transfer, who is unapologetically her through and through. This team had a certain type of energy. You spoke of the coach, Kim Mulkey. She allowed them to be who they were throughout this whole tournament, and it shined through. They bossed up in every right moment for themselves, did not back down from anybody, and said, we don't care who you are, what your seating is. When you see us, you got to see us, and you better bring your best, because you're running into a buzzsaw. So that's how both of these teams advanced. Again, Caitlin Clark shooting basically as soon as she walks over the logo. People, again, have compared her to Steph Curry. I won't. She just has crazy range. And to hear her story as the tournament went on, there were no women's leagues in her area, so she went and played in the men's leagues. These type of story, that story kind of gave me Jimmer Fredette type feel, when Jimmer would go and play in the jails that his brother worked at, just so he can get comp and build that toughness. You hear these stories only in college basketball, so that's why I absolutely love it. Just great for me from that point in time. But before we get into the finals, any thoughts on the Final Four?
On the Final Four, the games on Friday night?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, huge. I mean, clearly 2 big wins and from LSU and Iowa. And again, as you know, I thought South Carolina had the best all around team, and ignorantly enough, I didn't know enough about a lot of these programs. Certainly know who Caitlin Clark is, and I know who Kim Mulkey is, and all that. But just the the cohesiveness and the team play that certainly LSU had is helps them take down a team like South Carolina, and then you just saw it there. I think they're probably the favorites, heavy favorites going into Sunday, right? And Caitlin Clark's something special. Yeah, the Steph comparisons will be there. Why can't she just be Caitlin Clark? Like that's fine with me. And
Steph
but yeah,
the
just
greatest shooter ever, men's, women's, period. Like, stop comparing people to other people. I get it, but let Caitlin build her own legacy.
yeah,
And that she's doing right now. That's it. And
yeah,
also, you're not what'd you call yourself a second ago? You said something bad about yourself for not knowing about the other teams.
I pleaded ignorance.
Yeah, you weren't ignorant, because I'd say 90% of the people that filled out a bracket had South Carolina winning.
Sure.
So you're not, sir, because they were the best team cohesively. But
that's like the nicest thing you've ever said to me on this podcast.
Take it, frame it, because it's probably gonna be last. Wow. Love you, Sam.
Walked into that. Yeah, man. She closed out a hell of a NCAA tournament on a record-setting note. She had 30 points, but she broke the record during the game, men and women, as you alluded to, for points and three-pointers made in a single tournament. Oh yeah, Cheryl Swoops 1993 record for that, with a total of 175 points in the tournament, and eclipse that. That's pantheon right there of women's basketball, certainly in this country, and just
basketball in general.
Yeah, men, women, she's certainly iconic what she did for women's sports, college basketball, the WNBA. So that's good company to see there too. The attendance, they were playing at American Airlines Arena in Houston, where the not in Houston, in
Dallas,
sorry, where the Mavs play. 19,482 fans, record for women's Final Four, sellout crowd. And with that too, just jump into the ratings. According to Nielsen, the game had a 9.9, which is great. Viewership peaked at 12.6 million, and it's the most viewed women's college basketball game on record. But during the ESPN era, at least, when they took a closer note of this stuff, but almost doubled that mark, which was UConn's win over Oklahoma in 2002. So, it was a moment for not just collegiate basketball, women's basketball, just women's sports, and this country. And hopefully they can take that momentum and, ride it and continue to build on the sport. There's a lot of great ambassadors for the women's game, and you see a lot of them playing in the WNBA now. And Leah Boston, as you mentioned too, probably be the first pick, and undoubtedly will be the first pick in the WNBA draft. And Caitlin's going to have to wait a little bit, but certainly can continue to build on her legacy and in Iowa there too. So without controversy, I mentioned before, one of was it when did the initial "you can't see me" thing? You want to set this thing up, Brandon?
Sure.
Yeah. Great.
So in the last few minutes of the game, Angel Reese followed Caitlin Clark, and she did the "You Can't See Me" celebration, which is John Cena's celebration. By the way, super corny celebration, regardless of who's doing it, but
iconic though.
And so is John Cena. Yeah, super corny too. Anyway, so she followed her doing it, and then pointed to her ring, basically saying that she's going to get a ring. Caitlin didn't really acknowledge her. She went about her business. then the game was over. So this stirred up social media, of course, people saying that Angel Reese was that was bad sportsmanship. She needs to play the game with class, that she shouldn't have done this, so on and so forth. Okay. Reese wasn't the first person to do this. Now, Caitlin Clark didn't do that in the game, but she did it against Louisville earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, you're right.
When she was playing South Carolina, I forgot the young lady that was shooting, but she gave her space and shooed her off and said, basically saying, whatever, I don't believe you're going to make this shot. It's a part of basketball. It is a part of sports.
Yeah.
In general. If you're going to call somebody's bluff, call them out. It is a part of the game. It is a part of competitiveness. So Caitlin Clark had every right to do this. And the person had every right to make the shot. And the team had every right to beat Caitlin Clark. This is how you shut people up. People do certain things, certain antics. Excuse me. You have an opportunity with your play to shut them up and come back. And that is exactly what happened with Angel Reese. Now, people were saying, well, Caitlin Clark didn't do this to LSU, but Angel Reese came out and said the reason that she did it, she said she respects Caitlin Clark, her game. She's a hell of a player. She said, but she wasn't going to let that disrespect happen to her team. And she said she saw what she did to her SEC sisters in South Carolina, and she wasn't going to allow that to happen. Now, Reese came back today. Clark came today and said on ESPN she had no problem with Reese's comeback after the game was in hand. It was fine when Clark did it. Or excuse me, who said that? That's what you said that, Sam? I'm sorry. This is what you wrote. But basically, Clark wrote and said today that she had no problem with it. She said it's a part of the game. She said, it's makes our game better that this situation happened. So before I get into what I truly feel about it, which I'm sure you can probably get a little hint of where I'm going to go with this, maybe not. What did you think on this whole conversation that has been made from this situation occurring?
I mean, we talk about this a lot. I have certainly could have guessed that this was going to happen the way it happened, at least the media blowback from all of this. Mm-hmm. But here we have Caitlin saying it was fine, Angel saying it was fine. And as you mentioned, happens in sports all the time. It shouldn't be an indictment on women's basketball that this happened. Why does it have to be like, why does it have to do that? Like, why does it have to be like all of women's basketball is bad because someone had their moment and clap back? Like, I'm totally fine with it. They're totally fine with it. No one cares when the men do this stuff. I mean, receivers catch big passes on star defensive backs. They make a taunting thing. They do something. Defensive backs break up big passes. Defensive ends take big sacks, or get big sacks. Big home runs, walk-offs, doing the gritty and all this other stuff. Like it's part of the game. It was done. Everyone thinks it's respectful that is taking part in it. It's a shame that this had to come of it. And then there's certainly questions of race and, all this other stuff, and the media wants to just make this a bigger story. I'm not as privy to that, this story. I haven't paid too much attention to it. Obviously I saw it happen. But yeah, I understand why it's a story, why it's a thing, but I think it's BS.
I appreciate that. And I've been following it very, very close. Yeah. Watched it when it happened. Watched the immediate backlash on social media as it happened, because I was super curious to see what the narrative was that was going to be painted. And immediately it was that Angel Reese, as you alluded to before, there is very heavy racial overtones in the situation.
Painted by everyone else.
Outside of Caitlin, outside of Reese, but
Right.
Reese spoke up on that. I mean, outside of the players, the people that actually really matter in their opinion matters in this, it's people that were speaking that are basically, they have the ability to speak. It's freedom of speech, depending on where you are. But a lot of people had opinions about it, which tells me and gives you my gut feeling. I have no accurate numbers or data on this, but I always feel like in these situations, there's a lot of people speaking up on a situation that they've never been involved in. They've never played sports to that high level or intense of a level that this is something foreign to them. And that's okay. When something's foreign to you, sit back and try to understand it instead of projecting your thoughts on it, of how you would have handled in the situation. Because there's plenty of people have had plenty of conversations about this, and I respect the athlete's perspective on this. If you've been in the heat of moment when somebody is talking trash, for me per se, Sam, if somebody is talking trash to me on a court, field, whatever the case may be, I'm not the person that starts it, but I'm damn sure the person to finish it. That's how it's always been for me. It's been instilled for me. I don't talk, but if you bring it to my front door and we win, and I had something to do with the win because I'm a part of the team, best believe you're going to hear something about it. Angel took this upon herself to make sure she did it. Now, the only thing that I didn't like that Angel did was following Caitlyn around. If you're going to gripe anything, that's the only thing that I did not like. But she had the ability, she has the capability of doing that. That's just like when we talk about in baseball, bat flips, right? And it's showing up the pitcher, right? Well, if you don't want that to happen, don't let them hit a home run off
The
you.
pitcher gave up the home run. It's we've been talking about it's the rules of engagement, man.
It's just these old school rules that do not exist to this younger generation, and you guys need to wake up and smell the damn coffee. Now back to the racial overtones.
Oh yeah, by the way, those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was okay when Caitlyn did it throughout the whole tournament.
The whole tournament.
Throughout the whole year that she is doing this to teams, that she was dominating and putting on this great performance, and people were out here celebrating her left and right. But the second Angel Reese does it, one time she did it, even though she's got criticism for many other things, calling her ghetto, calling her basically saying, I literally read a comment that somebody said, Caitlin Clark will be a Hall of Famer in the WNBA, and Angel Reese will be flipping pizzas in 5 years. This is the comments that people were writing.
I mean, you know, so the discourse, social media.
Of course, but this is what I'm saying. Some people just do it just to rile people.
Oh yeah, sure. They hide behind their keyboards.
But some people actually really believe that too.
Sure.
I just don't like when the narrative is switched in and it is white against black in this situation, which was made not by the players. It was made by people outside of this, and also some media figures, because I read some of what they've said, and I took some pictures and kept some receipts for sure, because I 100% have something to say later on. But to me, Sam, this is something that shouldn't have been blown out of proportion. It is just a part of the game. It is what it is. I can understand if it was physicality that was involved, like something blatant like that. It was literally same thing that she did. She walked away. They both walked away. They're both fine. They showed respect to each other at every opportunity they both have. They showed respect to each other, and that's it. It was left there on the court for those two and the teams, not for other people outside of it.
It's almost like this is just brought up to have this
water down that
ship. Yeah, and to kind of knock someone's a team's program's accomplishments, and to just have she's black and she's white, so it's got to be a race thing. And it's just, look, if Caitlin Clark is already at she's a junior, a sophomore, I don't even know. She's already accomplished so much in this game, and she certainly has the talent, right? And let her, you do it until you can't back it up. And yeah, her team lost the championship game.
Yep.
And you take your humble pie with it, right? I mean, yeah, the the walking around and following her, sure, but everything it's the rules of engagement. Garrett Cole wants to, you know, bitch and complain about like, you know, whatever it is, like the celebrations, and don't give up the home run. But it's okay to do like the Tiger Woods fist pump after you get a big strikeout and slam your glove and
It's showing up the other person.
but you can do that, and not Garrett Cole doesn't really do it that much. He's, you know, gives up a lot of home runs. He's a fly ball pitcher, but just trying to think like this these unwritten rules, man. And it's a little bit of that. It's more of like what's just annoying about this is like the media. You knew this story was gonna take this turn and happen this way. I'm just glad both the girls have each other's back in this situation. So
it's about the bigger picture. They understand it's about the bigger picture. It's competition. It's not, again, you have to live through this to know what it feels like. I've been on both ends of this. I've been on the end that I used to talk, and then I learned, I was like, you know what? I don't like this feeling of somebody coming back at me after I said what I said, right? And I don't talk. So now when I don't talk, if somebody says something, the pleasure of shutting somebody up is so great. It feels so good. Because it's kind of like you give them their piece of humble pie. And that's what Caitlyn got. And she took it in stride. And now they're both going to go on and do what they have to do. One has a ring, one doesn't. But Caitlyn had a phenomenal tournament that will never be forgotten. And they both did something together that elevated women's basketball. So
and
that's the bottom line to me.
And I think too, certainly not having a you know, the one or twos in the final four on the men's side, kind of a lack of like big storylines that allowed, you know, the
women's tournament,
the women's tournament to have a little bit of that shine. And it's great. You know, you don't have to be cool and say like, oh, I knew who these players were before March, but now people do. And it's a great opportunity. I mean, we've seen it. We see it before. Hopefully we continue to see it. And
it's crazy to me that people didn't know who Caitlin Clark was before this tournament. Like people didn't even know who she was last year, which is crazy because she was doing her thing last year amongst other players that are well known in college basketball. But I mean, if you don't watch, you don't know. That's that simple. Before we go to our next topic, two things. Miss Jill Biden, I respectfully am going to tell you your idea is dumb. Absolutely dumb. There is no reason that Iowa, the losing team, that this has never happened before, that the losing team comes to the White House as well. It should only be the winning team. That's number one. Number two, I want to
walk that back. She clarified it.
I'm glad she did. I didn't hear that, so I'm glad you told me that. Two, and more importantly to me, I want to give Jim Nantz his flowers.
Hell yeah, man.
Jim Nantz, that was his last game called. It's going to absolutely be weird to not hear him calling March Madness. He is the voice of March Madness. He retired in general, just being a voice on CBS in totality. Masters, many sporting events.
I mean, football. I mean, the
football,
prime,
everything that he did, he touched.
I think he's just taking a step back from college basketball, though.
Is it college basketball? I thought he's
So he's still doing the Masters. He's still part of NFL.
I'm reading it right now. He's still doing NFL, and he's not doing that.
I was a little worried too when I heard that because we grew up listening to Jim Nantz and Phil Simms before Tony Romo, and that combination, and certainly he's been the voice of the Masters for a whole generation, and as you mentioned, obviously the tournament and everything else on CBS. But yeah, totally, man. I'll let you continue.
That's really it. I mean, he's that dude. It's just gonna be weird not hearing it, but I mean, it's kind of like not hearing Joe Buck, even though I can't stand him, not calling the World Series anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just a staple that it's there and it changes. And I mean, we have to be open to change, but it just sucks. But I'm super happy that we had the pleasure, the luxury of hearing such a talented voice call these games and add to the excitement of the game. So
hello, friends.
Yep.
But Yeah, totally. And the commentators were trying to give him his flowers, and he, as humble as he's always been, right? Just not about me.
Yep.
But he has an incredible week, man. He does both Final Four games. He does the title game 2 days later, and then he flies to Augusta. And
Mhm.
obviously, the biggest golf event of the year, one of the biggest sports weekends of the year, is coming up with the Masters.
Tiger
And
Woods, yep.
he's right there, and it obviously takes a toll on him. But that's that's what you dream of if you're in that position, and it's cool that he's able to do that. I imagine like Kevin Harlan or Ian Eagle now. Probably Kevin Harlan will kind of take that lead role there, which again, another
My boy.
iconic voice.
Give it to my
What's
boy Ian. I want to hear Ian.
Yeah, Ian's the man. Love both of them are great. I mean, they're staples in our lives, right? Between football and on CBS, and Ian is the lead on the Nets broadcast. Kevin Harlan does all the a lot of the Westwood One stuff, and certainly bounces around and does everything. So yeah, it's just it's changing the guard. Things happen. It's just kudos to a great career. You mentioned Joe Buck in baseball. I do miss Joe Buck doing baseball games. But
that's a change. Just like
change, just like
baseball
these.
change.
So we went over the impact of these new rule changes last week headed into the season, and we have a couple games worth of data, and I'll read them off here, Hayes. But what are your initial thoughts with how the first the first weekend, if you will, of baseball went?
Do you hear me? Do you hear me clearly when I say this?
Yes.
Baseball is fun to me again to watch.
That's great, and that's why I hope that's what this was all about, right? So this is from Jeff Passan, who with ESPN kind of compared some numbers between the first four game. I'll do the first four games of last year to this year. So there was one more game this year, but it really shouldn't matter too much. 31 minutes shorter. The average baseball game so far this season, it's 2 hours, 38 minutes compared to about 3 hours and 9 minutes. Offense is up because of the shift and, various other reasons. The bases are bigger. Stolen base attempts are through the roof. I think last opening day alone, there were only 5 stolen bases. And then on Thursday, there was like 22.
Mm-hmm.
So for the season now, there's been 84 attempts, 70 stolen bases. That's an 83% clip there. And last year was 29 stolen bases out of only 43 attempts. So that's about 67%. So, almost double the amount of stolen base attempts. We're seeing it just with our own Yankees flying around. And certainly the Orioles on opening day had 5 stolen bases on their own. So that's part of the game there too. And it just shows that this pitch timer is working. Not a lot of violations happening. Certainly the younger guys in AAA are used to these rules already, but we'll adapt. And the goal is someone who is used to be a huge baseball fan and now is just a casual fan like you is hopefully tuning into more baseball games.
Yeah, it's big for me because a huge part of baseball for me is when I was playing was stealing bases. Like I love watching people try to steal bases and that whole art of when to go, not when to go, get thrown out, slide safely, seeing that up. I mean, Volpe had what, 3 stolen bases or 2 stolen bases? 2 stolen bases already.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah. Already in the first 4 games.
Did you see his first game where he was on base?
Where they threw it over to him and he was
he didn't even
in there. Yeah, he didn't even move. But yeah, no, I enjoy that very, very much so. The length of the games, like it's more fast paced. And that's, yes, it's a 31-minute difference. And some people probably like, well, what's that? Well, that's like a whole episode of a show. Like, if you're sitting down consuming time, it allows. I said this to you before off air, Sam. I'll say it again. I've said it probably on air. You literally, with a 3-hour game, can start the game, cook dinner, go out to the store, pick up something else, still come back after doing the drive and whatever shopping, come back and the game is still on and it's like in the fifth inning. Right. So
Yeah.
it's allowing the game to continue to go forward. Like
How
all
about
the other
yeah.
games are all the other major sports, you're not sitting here forever. I mean, I've become a very my love and passion for football, meaning soccer here in America, has increased so much more of just watching halves. Like it's a 90-minute game. It's a 90-minute game, sometime 96, whatever, extra time or whatever. But at max, you're probably looking at an hour and a half. And you're watching nonstop action, regardless of somebody scoring or not, but just back and forth, and it's over. And you're like, whew, like you almost have to take a breath of fresh air, like the game's over. Like with baseball, it's a slower game. But I want it to be sped up. I don't want to be sitting there forever and waiting for somebody to mind games at the mound and all that. So I'm just happy, Sam, is what I'm saying. I'm happy.
Yeah, and these rules or changes had a lot of criticism. It's obviously easy to criticize the baseball commissioner Rob Manfred. He's said a lot of stupid things, has done a lot of stupid things over his tenure. But that's I think they got this right. I'm a fan. I kind of, in hindsight, wish the timer was a little longer, just for I don't know. I'm not a pitcher. I'm not a hitter. I was not very good. You can look up my little league stats. They weren't very good. They weren't good.
Don't think anybody's gonna do that, but
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I don't even know if that's public record, but if it is, I'm gonna look later. That said, I wish it was a little longer, and in the playoffs, that might, it'll be interesting. I don't know. Kind of sometimes the drama is in between those pitches, and the batter getting ready, the batter stepping out, some of those things. But at the end of the day, it's a better product now. And BABIP is up in baseball too. That's batting average, balls in play, and that number is basically up. Just it used to be, it was a 3 true outcome game, right? We talked about it last time. Home run, walk, strikeout. That's it. That's what these guys were going to do. And now, we have 15 points in batting average up so far, 15 points in OBP, 18 points in slugging percentage. So an overall almost 50 points in OPS. Like, and a lot of the extra hits are singles too. Like, you're getting rid of the shift and guys are getting on base, and it's not all about the home run. And it's just kind of changed the game a little bit. I'm here for it. I like it.
What was the acronym again? Because it was god awful.
It's all the sabermetric stuff. It's bad. BABIP, batting average, balls in play.
Ugh, yikes.
Yeah. Bonus pod. I'll go through analytics, baseball analytics with you. Everyone.
Nobody tune into that. I will tune into this though, Sam.
Lay it on me.
Anthony Rendon, he is the Angels' third baseman.
Yes, sir.
Serve a 4-game suspension for his quote unquote actions involving a fan. MLB issued a 5-game suspension for Rendon, but then it was reduced by 1 game following his appeal. Rendon will also be fined an undisclosed amount and will begin serving his suspension Monday versus Seattle. This, if you have not seen it, is absolutely legendary. And I would 100%, if I was an Angels fan, start a GoFundMe to pay for this fine for him. As a fan, in general, I kind of want to just start one because I understand why the MLB has suspended him and fined him, because you can't just be out here grabbing up fans, the patrons that are.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't
get sued.
Get the guy. Yeah, correct. But go on, yeah.
But I absolutely love the fact that he grabbed this person and confronted him, because some of you fans out here are getting way out of line. And I'm so glad because you feel that you're untouchable. It goes back to that conversation before. You got these Twitter trolls or these internet trolls out here, and you say everything you want to say because it's not in front of the person and it's behind closed doors, and the person can't get to you unless they're a hacker and they can get your IP address, and that's a whole nother situation. But Randone took this matter into his own hands, and I know the MLB doesn't condone it, and I'm not condoning violence. But this wasn't violent to me. This was putting somebody in place and checking them and letting them know about themselves. And I know Randone has apologized. The fan has apologized, but damn, Sam, everything about this to me, I love that he did that because some people just need to be told about themselves.
We have whole episodes. Remember like a year and a half ago, all that, I think it was in basketball, these fans coming on the court and doing, I mean, and in baseball too, we were going off for like a whole episode about it. I agree with you. Obviously you don't want this to happen. Anthony Rendone's kind of seen like a grouchy person in general sometimes, but I don't necessarily, I mean, he's lucky he didn't get the guy for his own good, but you can't talk to these guys like that. I'm not starting or chipping into a GoFundMe. I just looked it up. He signed a $245 million contract with the Angels, like the same time that Garrett Cole and Strasburg signed those deals. What was that, like 2020? So yeah, I'm not doing that, but he's got enough money. He can pay the $50,000 fine. It ends up going to charity anyway. But yeah, it's, I mean, you even see like Ohtani's face. What you look back at the guy, like what's he doing? And Phil Nevin, the head coach of the manager of the Angels, was kind of like, it doesn't change my opinion on Anthony Rendon. It's,
why would it?
Yeah. And just, you're an Oakland Athletics fan. Like, what are you doing?
I don't care what that person.
No, I know, but like, it's just kind of like, what are you doing? Like,
just shut up. You paid this money and you think that it's just this entitlement that people have. I paid all this money so I can do and say whatever I want to say to you because you're not going to do anything, or it's just a money grab for me because if you react, then I can turn around and sue you.
Oh yeah.
That's that. Like, it's just,
Buddy's got the camera rolling.
There needs to be something like implemented to keep up with this day and age, because I don't think that's fair to the athlete that they have to just endure certain things. Like all the stuff that I hear that comes out of Boston, like the racial stuff that's said to the players that play on the pitch over across the pond, the racial shit that they have to deal with on a day in, day out basis. Fans coming onto the court in basketball are saying things as these guys are playing. Like, it's gotten out of hand because people are just looking for the bag. They're looking for you to react. They're going to keep pushing that button and hope you react so they can get some of your millions of dollars. And it's just really disgusting to me. People walking through tunnels, dropping beers on people. Like, Sam, if that were me and somebody did that, like, it just really depends on, like, I'm not going to say depends on the day. If you're doing that and straight out blatantly disrespecting me and dropping some drink on my head, and just because you're upset about it, I'm 100% getting up in the stands. You're going to have to grab all the security and my teammates to not get me because I'm putting you on your ass. I'll pay that fine. I'll get sued for that. Like, it's fine, especially if I'm making all that. But there's got to be something to protect these players and do something from there. Like, I know they've been doing bans and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I'm sure that'll continue, and I hope that deters more people. But
was this in Anaheim or LA or in Oakland? I don't even remember.
I'm not quite sure, to be honest.
I was going to say Oakland A's can't really I
think it was
in
Oakland.
The business of banning any fans because
I think it was Oakland fans. Yeah, they do.
But I'm going to just ignore you just saying you're going to go up into stands and hit people.
I mean,
you're a nice guy. You're not going to do that.
Okay, you clearly don't know your friend. But all right.
No, it's all good. Yeah, that all that said, it's a shame that it happened. It happened. It's more than just he's a professional athlete. You kind of forget sometimes these people are people, like they're humans. And Rendon's hurt all the time.
It's so
and he's got enough struggles. Just hopefully this kind of mitigates. But
I'll say this before we go into the next thing. It's so funny you say that because I literally was like looking at Judge and him talking and some of the interviews like leading up to first games of the season, and in hearing him talk about the off season and whatnot, and like you just see these guys and they're guys and gals and they're like in a different stratosphere, and it's like I almost forget like their age, because then they said his age and I was like, shit, like I'm looking at him like, damn, like this dude is a shit and I respect him so much. I'm like, he's young as shit compared to me. I mean, not
Aaron Judge.
young, right?
Yeah, he's like
But
30, right?
yeah, but it's just like he's 5 years younger than me, and I'm looking at him like, and I think it's just where my mindset is of being a kid and watching sports, and you're always watching these guys that are like older than you. But then now we're in the day and age of we have some guys that we saw throughout their whole career, and then now we're watching the younger people, but it still feels like they're older in a sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
it's weird. It's weird.
It's a weird thing. I mean, you mentioned it. We've seen just whole generations of people. I mean, Tiger Woods was at the podium today in Augusta, basically saying, "I don't know how many more of these we have left."
Yeah.
I remember watching Saturday and Sunday of that '97 Masters, not even knowing what I'm watching because I was, 10 years old or whatever. But like we've seen the rise and fall and then rise again, and now the struggles of Tiger Woods. And I mean, we were blessed to see some great athletes and the lifetime that we have, and from Jeter to just comes to mind LeBron, right? I mean, we're the same age as LeBron James, give or take a couple. He's like a year older than me, like half a year older than me. It's wild. But yeah, you forget they're people and they have families and they have lives and they have feelings, and it's it's easier said to just be like ignore the noise. And when they say I don't read the paper, I ignore all the, maybe they go out of their way to do it sometimes, but maybe they do look at their Twitter mentions and they kind of they're human about it. It's just yeah. But you can start Anthony Rendon's GoFundMe. Just let me know the link. I'll tweet it out or whatever. But
I got you.
But happier news here. I wanted to put this in. White Sox closer Liam Hendricks basically put on social media the other day that he's starting his final round of chemo to treat non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Congrats.
And he said in the video, "See you guys soon on the South Side," which is just great. He's a character in the half. I don't know if you've ever seen him, like YouTube him, guys and girls. YouTube him in the All-Star game when he's mic'd up. He's a maniac. He's like just fun for the game, and he's a really good closer. And the White Sox certainly need him right now. But that said, he's got a much bigger battle than anybody that would get into that box. So just prayers up for him. And
that's who he's pitching against right now. So that's his battle.
Yeah, no, totally. And they didn't put him on the 60-day IL, so basically means he can come back, soon. So I know he's been pitching at the complex when he can, but just I can't even imagine. Unfortunately, we've both had, this awful disease impact our lives and our families. But like to be able to do that, just hell of a story, and just, wishing our best to Liam Hendricks here, as get well soon. There totally. But moving over to the hardwood, I mean, one thing I wanted to kind of an easier segue into this is hopefully the Warriors get Andrew Wiggins back. I know he's been out for a while, 48 days. He's missed 22 games. He's attending to a personal matter. I'm not going to speculate. He's away from the team, and it sounds like he's going to come back, and hopefully he's going to play.
It ain't no speculation. Is
that true?
Reported.
Okay,
it's well reported. Yeah, but I'll leave that to you guys to look that up on your own. Yeah, a little messy there, but yeah, super happy that he's going to be returning because the Warriors need him. They need that wing, that slashing wing, that defense from him, and it's crazy just to hear that Andrew Wiggins is needed.
I was having the same thought, dude.
It's just so crazy that winning a championship last year and how it changed. Wow.
And you're saying I had a rough day.
Woo! How it changed his perspective in basketball, or how people perceived him. He was shipped out of Cleveland when LeBron came back. LeBron didn't want him there. There was the infamous trade for him and Kevin Love. LeBron wanted Kevin Love. Andrew Wiggins was basically relegated to the realm of no return out in Minnesota, to only come and turn his career around when he went to the Warriors. It was essentially like his last stop. It almost felt like, even though he still was revitalizing his career on the low, just being a good solid piece, and then was a key piece to that Warriors championship team. And now the fact that every media outlet that has talked about basketball is saying how much the Warriors need him back is so crazy. It's night and day. So shout out to him. It's just proof that your time can come at any point. So
I mean, we talked about a couple weeks ago with Geno Smith, right? I mean, just situation. But the Warriors don't win that championship without Andrew Wiggins.
Nope.
And I know that's a
shut down Jason Tatum.
Yeah. And he was 4th in points during the playoffs last year on his team, 2nd in rebounds, 4th in steals, 1st in blocks, 4th in threes. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Andrew Wiggins, as you mentioned. I mean, he was on that Kansas team that flamed out, had Joel Embiid on it too, flamed out. First number 1 overall pick, wasn't a really strong draft. In hindsight, it was, but at the time, the speculation was is Embiid going to be this kind of player? And obviously, he's that dude.
Yeah.
But he wasn't mentioned in that welcome letter that LeBron had when he said he was coming back to Cleveland. And that was kind of like, since then, I was like, oh, all right, I kind of feel for this dude. Got shipped out. Minnesota was an awful situation to play in. He was not consistent. It kind of looked at times he didn't even want to be there on the court. And it just shows like a good structure, a good atmosphere, environment. Steve Kerr is, just runs a legendary organization over there, and a winning organization, and he's a vital part of that team. And I think from a Warriors standpoint, they obviously need him. And there's not a lot of depth on this team. Hopefully Gary Payton Jr. gets continues to look better and better. They're definitely going to need him, but it's going to be a tall order for the Warriors to get out of this West. But he certainly will help. Totally.
Yes.
And speaking of the West and flaming out too, the Mavs on February 10th had a 96% chance to make the playoffs, as you put in the rundown here. And you say, I like numbers. Look at that. As of yesterday, Monday, they only have a 6% chance. Just nuts. They swing for the fences. They make this big trade to get Kyrie. Luka and Kyrie have combined for over 60 points 6 times since they got together. They're 2-4 in those games. It's
Kyrie's fault, people. It's not Kyrie's fault. It's this has been a problem with the Mavs for a little bit. You have Luka. Luka can't stay healthy. You had Jalen Brunson, who was cooking last year. You let him walk. They're saying it's Jason Kidd. I think it's just a multitude of things at this point in time. But with that 6% chance, which is crazy, I mean, it's still a chance. They literally have to win all 3 remaining games, and hope that the Thunder lose. I think it's 2, and if they do, then they will get in to the play-in, from my understanding. So that is just wild in itself. Again, the West is so close, which we'll get into in a second. But I don't know if the Mavs don't make the playoffs. I don't know what the future looks like for Luka with Dallas. I don't know what the future looks like for Dallas with Kyrie. I know apparently I thought he signed an extension, or they're trying to keep him, from my understanding. But if they don't do anything, I could see Kyrie going to the Lakers somehow, some way.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like it's just kind of inevitable at that point. But they better shape up before these two ship out.
Yeah, you mentioned Brunson. I know we talked about that. They offered him a really cheap deal that he didn't take, and a lot of people said he should have taken. And then the Knicks, I thought the Knicks gave him way too much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel that way now. I mean, I love the guy. And I wasn't sure going into it, into the experience, but just it feels good to have a all around point guard, and certainly he helped carry that team, and yeah, Luka can't do it on his own, but he's got his own issues as you say there too. I think you could. I don't know if there's too much reported on it, but I know there was some speculation years ago. You could kind of see him trying to maneuver or setting up a way to get out of there. I don't really know what his contract status is. I'm sure he's locked into that 5-year deal that you get after your rookie deal. So I'm sure he's in the midst of that since he was drafted in like 2018 or so. But yeah, it's hard to build a winning team. I mean, you look at it like all these GMs and teams that have failed star players, and you have one of the best players in the league, and it's just hard to build around him. You could, I mean, look across the league. Dame, we talk about a lot, all the way to certainly the experiment in Brooklyn. You have a guy like Jimmy Butler. It's hard to win with not having a team around you, as much as the game can be like an ISO game sometimes. And these star players really make the difference. You kind of need help there too. The two of those guys scored 63 points. You still lost on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you speak of a star duo. You have AD and LeBron, who have absolutely elevated the Lakers. I've been calling for AD to do this for a while. I think since the inception of this podcast, for him to step up and do what he had to do, and he has 100% done that. I'm hearing that there's a potential chance that he might not play in some of the up and coming games. If AD sits out any of these games when they have a chance to become the 5th seed, yes, the Lakers have an opportunity to become the 5th seed.
They're a half game out right now,
which is wild. If they don't do the right thing here, if he doesn't do the right thing here and play, like I would 100%, if I'm the Lakers, be like, we're trading AD. To essentially give up. Like, I don't care. You got to be like hurt, no Achilles, no.
Is he hurt, or is just like a rest kind of thing?
It might be rest, but there's no time to rest to get to where you need to get to, and it's not just to settle for that point in time. But I don't want to play that down right now, because the way that he's absolutely been playing, he's been the hottest player. Him and Devin Booker have been the hottest 2 players in the league right now. They are absolutely tearing it up. The pieces that the Lakers got at the trade deadline have been extremely impactful. They have depth now. This has been a surprise, and I told you when that happened, I was very, very thrilled with what the Lakers did. They can absolutely be a scary team with AD playing the way he's playing, and LeBron still out here averaging. I think he's averaging like 33 points. If you don't think that's not going to be crazy or amped up once it gets to the playoffs, you're out of your mind. So good luck. But the Lakers are scary if they get in, or wherever they land. They are going to absolutely be scary.
Yeah, it was never. I mean, we love AD when he's on the court, and we know what he's capable of doing. So unfortunately, it just comes in spurts because he's always, rocking a suit on the bench. So. They definitely need him. LeBron is still, I mean, he just put up a triple-double the other day. I mean, like 38 years old. He's still
LeBron is LeBron.
LeBron's LeBron, but he's not 10 years ago LeBron. So
it's okay. His shooting gotten better. He's seen every single defense. He knows how to break it down. Just think of, and I'm not comparing them to, but I mean the cerebral attack that they both have, Tom Brady and him. Long. They've seen every single coverage, know how to dissect it, know how to play against it. So it's damn near impossible to stop him because he knows how to beat whatever you're going to throw at him.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about just experience and knowledge, right? And just going through it. I mean, some of these pieces on the Lakers now are, going to be are already in big spots because these are huge games. And as we mentioned before, they're half a game out of Golden State and LA, the Clippers, for the fifth or sixth seed. They're 40 and 38 right now, and we were mentioning Dallas before. They are 37 and 42, so they're about a game behind OKC right now. So I mean, and Utah's has is right there too with them. So a little bit tighter in the West there. And again, we've been saying it all year. Aside from like the first 3 or 4 seeds, you wake up and everything's different, and they're so close together, and it's just it's a fist fight every day, and just big spot. I hope AD is just. I hope it's just kind of like BS reporting there. I hope he's fine and can play, but be interesting to see. We thought it would be a tall order to get these Lakers to even into the playing games, let alone to avoid the playing game. So, certainly could happen. I will not count those guys out for sure.
As you shouldn't. Let's get, since we're already talking about this, my Nets are in a battle right now with the Heat to secure the last spot in the Eastern Conference. And this is talking about actually already be seeded. Every other seed is there. It's just the last seed, the 6th seed. And they're fighting. They're 2 games ahead of the Heat right now. So they have a chance of doing exactly this. I pray they pull this off so I can bring up a receipt of what Mr. Harrison has said on this podcast of what my Nets wouldn't do. So I just pray they continue to do it, and what I said for other people. But if we go to the standings currently right now, you have the Bucks 1, Boston 2, Sixers 3, Cavs 4, Knicks 5, and then Brooklyn currently right now at 6. Miami's 2 games behind, but the play-in race, you have Miami, Atlanta, Toronto, and Chicago on the bubble, which I'm not really worried about any of those teams, is the Wizards, the Magic, and the Pacers. They could slip in, but I
think they're running out of time there.
It's pretty much set at this point in time. For the West, Nuggets, Memphis, Sacramento, Suns, Clippers, Warriors right now, which is so crazy with that, and Wiggins can hold that, but they're in the fight for their life because they can't let up at all, because if they slip up, you got the Lakers, you got the Pelicans, you got Memphis, you got Minnesota, and you have OKC right there. And even with that being said, you still have Dallas and Utah. So basically the last 6 have an opportunity of moving in the last few days. So it's very, very interesting on what is going to happen there. Sam, with that being said, we kind of have who's at the top. We kind of have our playoff picture already there. There's a couple pieces that we don't know, especially when it comes to the West, of who's going to be where. But who do you have winning the conferences and representing the conferences in the finals at this point? Obviously, with not knowing,
of course,
what the playoff picture looks like.
I would say, like, based on right now and what we know, I'll start in the West here, because you mentioned Devin Booker before. Since the All-Star break, almost 31 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically 35 and 5, and he's the second option on that team behind a Hall of Famer that's still in his prime. So I'm going to go the Suns in the West. I know they haven't had a lot of play together, but they know each other, as you've brought up before. Chris Paul is, a point guard. He is the point guard. And just they're certainly, their bench took a little bit of a hit with obviously everything going back to Brooklyn for KD, but you got KD and a healthy KD, a hungry KD. So I'm going to pick the Suns there, but and on the East, I've been going back and forth Milwaukee and Boston. I don't love the 76ers. I just don't. I like Embiid. I like how he's turned around his career over, since it started, right? He couldn't stay healthy in college and had some off years at the beginning of his career, and now he's should be a perennial all-star or a MVP candidate, but there's other guys keep winning it there. But you know, I want, as much as a New Yorker as I am, I really like Tatum and Brown, and I could see them finishing business this year, at least in the East, and getting there. But man, going up against Giannis alone is just a buzzsaw. And I'm really I put the Celts here just to be different, but I really like this Milwaukee team. And push comes to shove, I'll probably, if I had to put money on, I'd probably pick Milwaukee.
I'm not betting against Giannis, so that's number one. He is the best player in the NBA. Kevin Durant is probably the most talented scoring wise, but Giannis is the best player,
impactful player,
hands down.
Yeah.
Force. And the Suns, it's easy, but for me, with the Sun, I mean, they have KD, as I just mentioned, and Devin Booker. Chris Paul is older, but he's still the floor general that he once was. He may not be as agile, but Suns have that. The only thing that scares me about the Suns is not playing together as much and losing all the pieces like Cam Johnson and then
Bridges
Mikal Bridges, right? And Crowder as well too. So that could play a part in such a deep West. So we'll see how that works out there. But Sam, you put something on here that I didn't. I saw the CBA. I saw they signed the CBA. I didn't dive deep into it. I knew eventually I would, or we'd probably talk about it on here. But the one thing that stood out to me the most, and you can run down all the highlights of it real quick, but I saw this on April Fool's and I laughed because I was like, okay, everything that happens on April Fool's Day does not exist to me.
Right.
Here. I don't pay attention to anything on there. I'm just like, whatever, y'all are BS. And so, of course, throughout that day, I'm sure I miss a lot of good stuff. And I think it should just be a corporate thing across the board to not put anything out legit on April 1st, because people just ain't going to believe it. So when I saw that the NBA will no longer penalize players for using marijuana and they've removed it from the drug test, that's exactly what I saw on April Fool's. And I was like, okay, you're joking. Funny. Let me move on about my day. And then seeing you put this on here validated it. So that is actually true. What I also saw in here, which I didn't know about, is one of the things that I've been calling for quite some time, which is an in-season tournament, is coming. And I'm so happy about that, Sam. You know how happy I am about that, Sam?
You look pretty happy.
I'm super happy.
You sound pretty happy. I don't quite understand it.
I mean,
I get it, certainly
the
winner is going to get $500,000, or the winning team is going to get $500,000 a player. That's cool. People like money. I just don't understand how it will work and what the payoff is aside from monetary value for the league. Certainly more, more revenue.
I feel like this is going to take the place of the All-Star game. It might, unless they move the All-Star game to after the season, like when the season's over, kind of, NFL type thing. But I think this would be more entertaining than the All-Star game. Because essentially right now it's just a glorified pickup game that they may or may not play in. And if this is more incentive here money-wise, but I also want to see if this has any incentive towards the actual season, or it's just a separate goal on its own. So I guess they'll elaborate more on that, but that is really, really cool to me on that one. You want me to go through the rest of the Cliff Notes?
Yeah, you totally can. It's just, I know it's something Adam Silver's been wanting for a while is this tournament, and he's talked about it a lot. I just don't get, obviously you just said it, there needs to be more details, and certainly if there's some things attached to having some skin in the game, if you will.
Yeah, luckily for us, we have all the way until October of this year to figure out what the hell it's going to be, and I'm sure we'll find out every detail about that.
Real quick before you run it down, there's labor peace, right? We don't have to worry about a lockout, and they got this done ahead of time. They're not playing it to the buzzer. They've exchanged hundreds of proposals allegedly, so just kudos to the PA and to the league for getting this done. So, there's basketball. Well, yeah, go ahead. I won't interrupt it.
NBA players will be allowed to invest in the NBA and the WNBA teams via the NBPA select private equity firm. Players are now allowed to promote or invest in betting and cannabis companies. They will be allowed to sign non-gambling endorsement deals with sports betting companies. So that's pretty cool. Just to be clear, that does not mean they can bet on the games. They still can't do that. Players must play, which I love this part too, because this has been emphasized over the past few years. 65 games to be eligible for major individual league awards, such as the MVP and all NBA recognition. Love that, because if these guys want these accolades, which some act as if they don't, they do, you have to actually play the games. So love that. And then players attending the NBA Combine will be required to undergo physical exams that will be distributed to select teams based on players' projections. So I think that's pretty cool too, to get the evaluation of the players, see kind of what's going on physically, because you really don't know what you're going to get.
A lot of times agents hide that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that transparency needs to be across the board. I understand this is a young man's life, but this is also a business, so it comes with that territory. So,
and all the all NBA teams and stuff, a lot of that stuff is tied to contracts. Like you get the
incentives,
super max and stuff if you make one of the 3 NBA teams, all NBA teams. So like to have that qualifier be in there, 65 games. I mean, there's 82 games. That's three quarters of the season there. So
so that means when they come to your town once a year, your city once a year, you might actually see these guys now instead of sitting down during this rest. And I get it. There's still a topic of conversation that they need to shorten the season. I understand that, but your season's already kind of short compared to, outside of football. Baseball is long as hell. Hockey's pretty much the same time as you guys. So I get it. But
I feel like if they could do a better job of, and I know they have, but eliminating the back-to-backs or like trying to mitigate those situations, because that's most of the time that's when these guys are sitting out the second game of a back-to-back. And yeah, it is a bummer. Like I have kids and hopefully one day they'll be into sports. And if I took them and they really wanted to see LeBron, obviously they will not see LeBron too much longer, but if they really wanted to and he's not there, why did I just pay a fortune to, so that is a bummer. And that's one thing with the MLB that I really like. They kind of got rid of that whole interleague play thing, and every team is playing every team at least for a couple games, and they're playing less divisional games. So from 19, it's down to like 12 or 13. So we don't have to see them play like the same AL East teams as a Yankee fan. So it gives more time for other things. And I think if the NBA could add maybe instead of playing the opposite conference twice, that maybe they play it 3 times, just give a little more opportunity. They certainly won't want to get rid of games because of the ad revenue, but if they could space it out a little bit, certainly would help.
It will. You want to help us with how you think this NFL draft is going to play out? Because you have a mock that you have here, even though I don't necessarily really like the pick that you have for my team, but go ahead.
I thought you would. We didn't talk about it. I sent it to you. You didn't respond about that. I thought you were saving it for me. Look, every hack in sports has a mock draft around this time of year.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they know nothing about the situation, only what like McShay, Kuiper, Matt Miller, Daniel Jeremiah tell them. So I figured, why not? I have a sports podcast with my good friend Brandon here. Like, why not be one of those sports hacks? And I love the NFL draft. So I put together initially, put on our Instagram my top 10 picks, right? You wanted me to go to 13 so we could talk about the Jets there. Philly has New Orleans pick at number 10, you're alluding to there. So I put it together. You can check out 1 through 10 on Instagram. Hopefully I'll do another one. I sent it to our buddy Dave, who is the biggest draft nerd I know. And he said it wasn't bad. he's going to come on in a couple weeks, so we'll talk the draft. But yeah, I just kind of, you want me to run through it, or just you want to pick
I
out
mean,
where
you
I
can just you go pick out the key things that you have here that you
yeah.
think are the big standouts.
Yeah, I put Carolina at obviously at one now. They traded with the Bears, taking CJ Stroud from Ohio State. He certainly had a good combine. I would probably take Bryce Young, but it sounds like Stroud's their guy, and you don't make a swing like this unless you're confident in your dude, and I trust Frank Reich with what he wants to do there. I would take Bryce Young. It looks like he could go to Houston. Other things I kind of have pointed out here. A lot of people are saying the Colts are going to take Anthony Richardson. I just don't
Yeah, I'm hearing
see
that. Yeah.
Anthony Richardson being like a Chris Ballard Colts football player. Like there's too much volatility there. I really like him. I mean, he had a combine for the ages and the measurables are off the charts as we've talked about, but there he's still pretty raw of a prospect. So naturally I took where do raw prospects go but the Raiders. So that was my thinking there. But your pick here with Philadelphia via New Orleans, I put Joey Porter Jr., defensive back from Penn State. And I've seen him go there or in that area. You kind of alluded to help in the defensive back area over the year. And certainly you guys lost Gardner Johnson to Detroit and were able to sign Bradbury and Slay. But I just thought having another body like Joey Porter would be a benefit, but you don't like it. Tell me why.
I'm looking at Syracuse corner, Iowa's defensive end. Jalen Carter may fall.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson could be there. I'm just gonna call him Dijon because I like to because he's just gonna spread all over the field.
I love it.
Like some mustard. But those are the type of picks that I'm thinking. I feel that Joey Porter's gonna go later. I wouldn't be upset if the Eagles got him at 30. But at 10, there's way other people on my board that I would probably take ahead
So
of
even
him.
like defensive back wise, you think
Defensive back wise,
you
I'm
wouldn't want him
thinking,
like Witherspoon or someone.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly who I'd want for sure.
Okay.
That's who I would want. But I mean, obviously, it's not up to you or myself going from there. I do have a question for you. I wanted you to do up to 13 because 13 is the Jets pick, but it could not be the Jets pick depending on whatever the hell goes on with Rodgers. So I guess my only question for you is, do you think that the Jets will still have this pick, or do you think that they're going to be drafting this pick for the Packers?
I've been saying the whole time I think the leverage is with the Jets, even though they have a lot to lose if this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But Rodgers publicly saying his intentions are to play in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this will get done before the draft. I think if Joe Douglas had his way, it would be after the draft, and it would not include this year's compensation at all, or a first anyway. I wouldn't mind giving up the first. I just don't think we need to, just based on the contract and the fact that there needs to be something in there, and I'm sure there will be if he decides to just hang it up next year. What does that look like? There's certainly the kind of a stalemate going on. At the end of the day, I wouldn't mind getting, if we had to trade the pick, and we just traded our 3rd round pick and Elijah Moore for Cleveland's 2nd round pick. So we have back-to-back seconds, like 40 and 41 or somewhere around there. But yeah, ideally I wouldn't want to give it away, but if I just want to win, man.
Get it?
I have them taking an offensive tackle in that spot. I still kind of believe in Mekhi Becton, even though he hasn't finished a game in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he's in quote the best shape of his life, and his weight has been a problem for him throughout, even in college. But there's no question about the talent that he has when he's healthy and on the field. And I think he could be a huge asset to this team. but our offensive line is a lot of different pieces. Some some guys are getting older. We'll have Vera Tucker back, but I'd really like probably a tackle or a guard there.
Okay.
Ideally. So
Okay. Well, I
but
guess
check it out online.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. Check out Sam's mock on our page. But I'm sure I will probably dip my toes in this a little bit too. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. I'll leave it to Sam. Let me get to boxing here.
Okay.
I don't talk about boxing on here enough. And there's two fights that are really coming up. One was announced today, which is the fight that any boxing fan has really, truly been waiting for. And that is Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. We finally have the official date for this. It is official as of June 17th is going to be in Vegas that these two are fighting. And I cannot tell you, it's so crazy. Shout out to my buddy Miles and my brother Miles. I literally told him and texted him, I said, I told my lady, I don't care what she has planned for that day. I'm not doing it. I don't care what anybody has planned for me that day. I'm not doing it. All I care about that day is this fight. Same goes for April 22nd for Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, because that is another super fight that I've been waiting for. These are the fights that I've absolutely been waiting for to see and what boxing really, really needs. I don't think it's going to revitalize it because I think UFC has too much of a stronghold on combat sports. But these are the fights that absolutely need to be seen. If you're an old school boxing fan, grew up watching it when your parents may have had the black box or actually bought the pay-per-views, and you want to get back to that feel, that is it. Speaking of combat sports, WWE was sold to Endeavor Group, who has been buying up so many combat sports. I think they own UFC or a part of that, right? Too.
Yep.
For over $9 billion, something that my father introduced me to, and that our generation, Sam, grew into something so big. And now seeing that it just sold for $9 billion, it's astronomical. When I saw that, I immediately texted our buddy Farkas and my buddy Jason, who are diehard wrestling fans, and it's just nuts to see that even all that Vince has done and been through up and down personally, and then what the company has done in so many years, that this is sold for that much. I mean,
yeah, I think
I saw that.
I think the Endeavor Group now is like valued at like over 20 billion now too.
Wild.
Which I don't know too much about wrestling now. Certainly a lot of my friends watched it. I never really got into it growing up, but a lot of my fraternity brothers watched it in college, and I was into it for a couple of years. I certainly am familiar with the world, but not that world, but not too much. But I'd have to imagine like Vince is out, right? Like, so.
Oh no, this was basically his way. This is his, for a guy that literally has these lawsuits going on right now. This was a heaven sent for him, like just to get this sale off. I mean, I knew there was a group that was out in the Middle East that was looking to purchase WWE, and now here we are being sold. So I mean, he's always been a businessman through and through, and he was able to still get this off. I do give a lot of credit to Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley over there for doing this. So yeah, that was huge. So kudos to them.
Yeah. Your boy Dana White going to be involved in WWE at all?
He can kick rocks. I don't really care what he does. He can be involved in this fist to his face. That's
would say that to Dana White.
I absolutely would, because I don't care. Sam, you really have me pegged as this really saint of a person. I'm gonna tell the people.
No, I'm just saying. I think you're just exaggerating a little bit. You would not say that to Dana White's face. He's big.
I don't give a shit how big
He's gonna knock you out.
Okay, so Sam, I'm gonna knock you out, and then I'm gonna knock him out.
Why are you gonna
Because
knock me out? I'm not a violent
Then
person.
your friend. You know what? I'm done with you. Masters this weekend. You asked me who I got. I don't have anybody because I don't care. Who do you have?
That was my do you I thought this was do you care, and then I saw that you put boxing. I don't know. Rory, Scheffler, those guys are good. The live guys are coming back from the dead to be in this, so that's interesting. But
Live is still a thing.
yeah, apparently. I don't know. I'm just gonna say Scotty Scheffler. Why not back to back?
Yeah, I have no nothing here. So I
But
got
Rory
I'll
career
go
Grand
with
Slam. Would like
if,
to see
if
that.
Brooks is in it, I'll go with Brooks Kepka. I'll go with him.
Yeah, he should be.
I'll rock with him. Yeah, I got nothing else in this podcast, Sam. Before I have to knock you out.
That's it, man. Episode 93 in the books. Thank you so much for listening. For Brandon, my name is Sam. Thank you so much for listening. Dana, if you're listening, don't come after me. That's it. See you next week.
Get you a friend that believes that you can knock out Dana White, and if they don't believe you, knock them out. Bye.